everybody, and welcome to our episode. Let's talk about pursuing your dreams God's way. Now, I am joined by the incredible Anneka Wallington, and she is an entrepreneur and founder of the incredible brand Recognized. So, Anneka, welcome. Welcome to the show. Thank you so much for joining us. How are you doing? Are you doing well?
I'm doing really good. I just love your energy. I'm actually doing really well. I've had a bit of a mad week. I go on holiday on Sunday. Annual leave while running a business is honestly something that is a challenge. For that to go away has just been a bit mad, but actually I'm feeling really good. I feel very strong in myself. I'm coping. I don't feel overwhelmed, which actually is it's like a small win, but it's actually a really big win for me.
Yeah, it's a huge win. And you look radiant and you're a total, I don't really like the phrase girl boss, but you're like kicking it. And I've had a little chat with you before this, and it sounds like you've got a lot on your plate. So you're gearing up to a well-deserved rest. Now, I love to ask people 3 questions. And so I'm going to ask you those 2 so that everybody gets a little feel about who you are, what you love, what you do. Now, I mentioned that you own the brand and you started the brand Recognized. Would you tell us a little bit more about that? What is it that you do? What's the heart behind it? Give us the backstory.
Yeah, honestly, it'd be a privilege. So I'm one of the founders of Recognized, and I run Recognized with my husband, Joel. And essentially what Recognized is, I'm going to tell you where it began, but what Recognized is we are a social impact brand, and we bring together amazing causes with beautiful jewelry. So it's a super simple concept. How it works is you pick a jewelry base, which is a bangle or a necklace, and then you pick one of our statement pop-ons. So all of these pop-ons support a different cause. Amazing. And 100% of the profits are donated to the cause that you choose. So there's lots of different causes. This is for cancer support. We have the Dove for mental health. We do Pebbles for Black Lives Matter. We have the Heart for motherhood, and Pearls for anti-slavery, and other causes. And essentially the whole vision behind the brand and what we're about is helping people feel recognized. And what I mean by that is that no matter who you are or what you're going through, that you could feel seen and known, and know that your experiences matter. Yeah. And that, you know, when you're going through that, you don't have to feel alone, because there's always someone else who understands and can say, hey, I've also been through that. And so we would call these little symbols of hope for yourself and for other people. And so how it all started is, I'm actually wondering really quick, Abby, do you want me to look down the lens or at you?
Down the lens.
Right.
I know it's confusing because I flip. That would change. I look down the lens to because I noticed when I've watched back before myself doing stuff, I'm like, man, where am I looking? And then I was like, okay, no, look down the lens, but I'll switch. So whatever's comfortable for you.
I thought that was the case, but I thought I'd obviously just check. So, but I'll share the dream. So Recognized actually started because I had a dream about 5 years ago. We started the brand 2.5 years ago. But 5 years ago, I went home from university on one of those ridiculously long Christmas university breaks. And one night I went to sleep, and when I went to sleep, I had a dream, and it was just a clarification. It was a literal dream. I think people often hear the word dream and they're like, it's this idea or this vision, but no, this for me was an actual good night's sleep dream. And in my dream, I saw a woman who had depression walking into a supermarket. And at the till point, she saw another woman wearing a bracelet that had a dove on. And above her head, I saw the words, I stand with you. And in that moment, the woman who had depression didn't feel as alone, because she saw someone else wearing a symbol of hope, a symbol of what she was going through, and she felt recognized. And that was the dream. And I woke up, and I remember knowing that that was a very distinctive dream. I'd never had a dream like that. And it's funny, I then went back to uni that term, and all of a sudden, just really coincidentally, I had so many friends talking to me about their mental health. And I had this friend come up to me, a really close friend of mine, and she said, Anneka, I've just had depression for 3 months. And I was just so stunned, because I was like, you're talking to me about this after it's happened, not while you're going through it. And I honestly thank God, because I think we're in a very different place when it comes to talking about our mental health today. But at the time, I mean, I bet everyone can remember a time where you just didn't talk about mental health until you kind of come through it. And then my friend told me this, and I remember thinking, I was so shocked, because I just thought, particularly with something like mental health, it's so isolating. To know that someone else understands is everything. And you know, I'd struggled with anxiety. I had so many other friends that were, and I just thought, we're struggling in silence here when we could be supporting one another. And it got me thinking about my dream. And I remember thinking, well, maybe there's something that you can wear that can be that symbol of hope, that can be that conversation starter. And anyway, I began to have a look around, and everything I found was a really horrible, like, charity wristband, or a badge, or like a t-shirt. And I just honestly was like, just as someone who really appreciates like really nice things, I don't want to wear that. It's not stylish, it's not good quality, it's not going to last. And I just thought, that's really rubbish. You know, why should I have to compromise all of the normal things for impact? Why can't you have both? And I also remember really thinking, it doesn't really place a lot of value on the experiences that we go through in life if you hand them a plastic band. Yeah. You know, people who come to our pop-ups and buy a piece of jewelry, it's so sentimental to them. They like get very emotional. They're going to keep it forever. Like we hardly ever have returns. Actually, that's a different conversation. But my point I was trying to make there is that when there is a problem with our jewelry, it's actually highly sensitive for the customer, because broke, like if something broke, it's like, it might be like a cancer support pop-on which they've bought for someone they love. Like, that's a different conversation from just a piece of jewelry that broke. So, you know, I guess all to just say is that, you know, when they're buying something really beautiful and really high value, it actually speaks to say, like, your experiences are worthy, and this is something for you to wear with pride, or to have on you. You know, it just speaks value to what you've gone through. And so really that's kind of I couldn't find anything. I don't know if I said that. Yeah, couldn't find anything. So I thought, well, great, let's make something that looks beautiful and does good, looks good and does good, essentially. And basically sat on that for a couple of years. Didn't do anything about it. Loads of things happened, and then eventually we did it 2.5 years ago. It's evolved from something that looks good and does good to something that's genuinely changing people's lives, because like, there's no one in the world that can go through, there's no one watching, like, there's nothing that you can go through that someone else hasn't been through. And I think that's the power of recognition, and that's the power of what we're trying to do as a brand, is to like make these connection moments. And our pop-ons are a really important part of that. But there's lots of other things we do around the brand that help make those kind of connections between community groups and the really big ones, strangers.
Yeah, that's amazing. And you're a woman after my own heart, because the whole thing, our whole goal and vision behind Standout is to help people feel seen, heard and known. Like, you are not alone, and we try and reiterate that. So I love that you're actually putting value on people's stories and experiences and creating connection points there. So I think it's amazing. So what do you love? We're going to dive more in because the whole thing is pursuing your dreams God's way. And it's amazing that you actually had a literal dream that has like changed probably the trajectory of your life, hasn't it? And now you found this, and we're going to dive into what that looks like, how you find that, how you walk that out in a bit. But I'd love to know quickly, what do you love and what are you learning in this season right now?
Oh, big questions. They're probably like the hardest questions. Yeah, I can answer what I'm learning.
Okay.
And then I'll come on to what I love. I don't know why what I love is harder. But what I'm learning, I've been holding on to this verse in the last kind of couple of months, which says, her heart remains steadfast, trusting in the Lord. And I've honestly been through a very pressured time with the business over the last couple of months, and me and my husband have been reflecting on it, and actually a lot of it's just to do with that the stakes are a lot higher for us than they have been before. So some of the pressures are the same, but it's just gearing up for them again. And now what we can stand to lose is a lot higher, because we make a lot more money and we hire a lot more people, and you know, all of those things. So it's just constantly facing, you know, we all do this every day, but if you run a business you face it, our startup, you face into uncertainty every single day. And so one of the biggest muscles I stretch is my trust muscle and how I trust God. And basically a couple of months ago, there's some really big things that I was like, God, I need you to come through for this is me at the end of the week.
No, you go, girl, because you've had a full-on week, and it's like, we're recording this for anyone who's going to be listening in the future at 8 o'clock. We started this at 8 o'clock after you've had a full-on day. So the fact that we've been talking, I have respect for that.
Thanks. No, my you know, when your mouth just is quite
totally.
So just go with it, everyone. But you know, I was like, God, I need you to come through on these things. And what I'm just sick of doing is for just the anxiety and the freak out session, even though, and then trusting God, and then he comes through and you're like, thank you so much. Like, it's like, I'm just a bit over that. Like, I need to grow. Like, I need to be more mature than that now, because like, it's the same old story every time. And I trust in God and I read all the verses and then I freak out. And then he comes through and I'm like, oh, thanks God. Like, you're so good. And then I do the same thing again. And I was like, how do I grow here? Like, the Bible literally says in the word of God, like, about having a steadfast heart and like trusting in him, and that you will triumph as you trust in my promises. There's so many words about the blessing that comes from trusting. And what does trusting really look like? It doesn't look like freaking out. And the best way I can describe this, popular culture reference, is Suits. Anyone's watched Suits? There's this so this is episode, how do I explain this for anyone who hasn't watched Suits? But essentially it's a program about lawyers, and there's this like really fit, really hot, like amazing lawyer called Harvey. And he's just like badass lawyer, and he has a receptionist, but she's more than a receptionist. Like, I mean, she's kind of like
Superwoman.
She is a superwoman. She actually has magic hair, and she obviously is like his right hand person. And there's this amazing trust between these two. And Harvey they never let each other down. And there's this one episode where Harvey is out needing to get something done, and it's like coming up to the 11th hour, and Donna loses her faith in Harvey, and she ends up, I can't remember what she does, but she ends up doing something that causes a lot of consequences, and Harvey ends up being utterly hurt, because he was like, you've never lost faith in me. You've never lost faith in me. And God often speaks to me actually through popular culture. So actually in that moment, God was like, you do know, right, that the person on the other end who needs to get the job done feels the weight of that responsibility. Like, Harvey's not out there like chilling, like he knows he needs to get it done. And God was just like, I just want you to know that the things that you need me to get done, the things that you're praying for, I know the weight of that, and I'm like out there trying to get it done. So just have some faith in me. And I think that really spoke to me. So I think in this season, I'm really trying to grow in having a steadfast heart, and being able to get to something that's come through. And honestly, actually, praise Jesus, not, you know, my biggest prayer was, God, we're going on holiday on Sunday. It's like 3 weeks ago. Every day in my journal, I need these 3 things sorted so we can rest. Today, all 3 of those things have come through.
Amazing.
But I can stand here, Abby, honestly, not to toot my own horn, because I can tell you my flaws. This is just something I've broken. Like, hell, I can tell you flaws. But I can stand today and say, I kept a steadfast heart. I did. I know, like, I did. Of course, I'm human. Of course, I got a bit worried. But, like, I know I was like, no, God's going to come through. And he came through. And it's really cool.
That's amazing. What a beautiful thing to learn. And I'm sure actually has spoken to many people's hearts, because it's a thing we all have to learn and navigate. And it's easier said than done, isn't it?
What do I love? I just remembered that was the other question.
Yes.
I'm just going to whiz these off. I love Beauty Pie. You talked about my glow. Beauty Pie's got such a good business model. And I'm wearing pink, like, glow stick.
You are glowing. If you're listening to this via podcast, she's glowing. So you need to hop onto YouTube and see it.
The first, like, piece of makeup, like, I have. I'm also loving right now Clarins. Like, was a 5 years ago. I've come full circle, and they're just kind of the queens of skincare. And then, hey, there you go, little lip thing. What else am I loving that's not? I really love atmospheres mean a lot to me.
Mm-hmm.
Creating beautiful atmospheres for people to come into, for my friends, hosting events, customers, that's really important to me. I actually love singing and skiing, so 2 S's, and playing the piano. And I love my husband a lot. And I love anything that sparkles, and I love sunsets. There you go.
Oh, it sounds like you're someone we're gonna love. I love those things. Yes. Apart from your husband, I'm sure he's great, but he's your husband.
Oh, you would love Joe. Everyone loves Joe, honestly.
You know what I mean.
Yeah, I understand.
So we are talking about pursuing your dreams God's way. Now, I would love to know your opinion. What do you think a God dream looks like? And do you think it's something that comes like all in one hit, or do you think it's like a drip feed?
Are we distinguishing between the word dream or vision? And do we mean like literal dream, like go to sleep, or do we mean like a vision that's imparted?
I would say a vision that's imparted. So in the context of this recording, dreams are things that we feel God has given us to steward for our future.
Sure. Okay, that's so helpful. I 100% think that dreams that God has imparted into us, I think they're defined by a revelation moment.
Mm-hmm.
And so that might look like an actual dream. It might look like an experience that happens to you. It might look like a word that's given to you. I think that's often how they're defined. And that moment is probably carries maybe like quite a big weight of the dream. Mm-hmm. It also might just be something that's just always been inside of you. And that is so true. But I definitely think like 1,000% dreams from God imparted more and more as you like go on them. And so what I was given at the start of Recognized God has shown me more and more as I've walked it and as it's evolved.
Yeah. Do you think he gives you free reign with dreams? Like how much do you think is like, this is the dream I have given you and stick to it? Because I know, speaking to a lot of young women, they can get freaked. Their heart is so to do the will of God that they get freaked out of falling outside of his will almost by going off.
Yeah.
And I think there's an email thing going off. So people might be picking that up.
How do I turn that off? I didn't know you were hearing that, and I don't know how to turn it off. How do I do?
Do you have you so a little interlude, everyone. Is your email app open?
Shall I close it? Yeah, I think
it will cut it out. Yeah, it should.
I close my WhatsApp. Hold on. Quit. And quit messages as well. Okay, I think we should be good. So sorry, Abby.
Oh, don't worry. This is real life. I love it. I actually might keep this in because it's just, we like to do real. So do you think, like, how much do you think is like he gives you like a blueprint that you have to follow, and how much is it like, here's the crayons, go for it?
Yeah, and I really resonate with those feelings. And I know a lot of people, my friends, myself included at times, that have had those thoughts. And I always remember Christine Kane saying something, obviously the Queen, who is like, she said something like, you can't miss out on God's plan for your life. Like God will get you to where he wants to get you. That might take, there's that verse, isn't it, that says, man makes plans, man makes plans, but God determines his steps. Mm-hmm. So there's definitely something about like a journey there. And I think, I do really understand that feeling of like, oh, am I missing out on God's, on God? And I just don't think you can miss out on God. But I've kind of completely lost my train of thought as well.
I think on that, like, I agree. I think God is a sovereign God and a good father who always is pointing you and giving you flickers and glimmers of the future and guiding your steps when you're surrendering to him. But I also think, and I would love to hear your thoughts on this, that you can miss the boat if you don't get in it. As in,
wow, yeah,
you have to do. You can't grow what you don't sow. To be all like rhythmic. Do you know what I mean? Do you agree with that?
Actually, I think when I said, I also just remember blueprint. So yes, I agree. And when I say miss out on God, maybe I haven't thought my thoughts on that fully, but I think I mean, as in, like, if you listen to that initial, okay, just scrap what I said about that, because I don't know if I actually agree with that. But classic, when you're like live trying to think about what I think. But I think maybe more like I don't think you can miss out on God. If you abide in him, he will abide in you. And so if you are doing, I don't want to call it work, because it's not work. We're not saved by work. We're saved by faith and grace. But like, if you're spending time with Jesus, you just can't miss out on what he has for you. I genuinely think it's impossible. Like, so and that's probably what more.
Yeah.
Like, one of my friends right now is often in this like dilemma, and we're like sat there like, girl, like, you like spend your time with God, like you hear his voice, he gives you pictures, he's downloading everything, like, it's not like you're not doing any of that and you're not prioritizing your relationship with Jesus, and then you're like, what am I doing? Like, do you know what I mean? And I just like, well, actually, if you're spending time with God, then you just wait on the Lord, and like, I do think he reveals and he helps you with those steps. I think it's like the blueprint. I think I don't think God gives you a blueprint on how to do it. I think he's put people around you, and I think he's given you a mind to make decisions, and I think he's given you gifts. And then I think there's a favor aspect and there's a miracle aspect, but I think it's all about co-partnering with him in whatever he's called you in to do, whatever the dreams are, and then you do it together. I don't know what you think, but for me, it's often about like, okay, I've had this little bit of the vision, I'm going to step out, be obedient in this, and God parts a bit more. And then, sometimes you do hear these amazing stories and things like this have happened to us, where God literally gives you a solution to something. Like, I don't know if anyone's ever heard like Chris Valaton's stories about like computer programming, and God just gave them the code. Like, that can happen. But if God could do it all himself, then he wouldn't need us. So I think he uses us in those ways to help grow us.
Yeah. And I think he's like, he's sovereign, and actually he doesn't need us, but he wants us, and he gives us, he's made us in his image to be in relationship and communion with him, and gives us gifts and like Ephesians says, he's given us, he's prepared good work for us to do that always reflects and glorifies him. So I totally agree. And I think there's a massive thing of, yes, God is faithful to give you revelation and glimpses and show you what he's imparted or prepared for you, but you have to put it to work. You have to be faithful with the small things. And I always like to say, you have to be okay to start small and start sucky, and just actually have a go at going, do you know what? I think this is what God's made me to do. I think this is a thing that I feel like resonates with me. So I'm gonna have a go. And I'm going to trust that I'll put it to work, and if it grows, it grows, and if it needs to be pruned, it will. And I think it's like I love the God's a God of seasons, and I love the analogy of the farmer and the field, and just the sowing and the reaping. And I think faithfulness. I think he's faithful, and we have to be faithful too. So.
You said just really quickly, you said something before about like, I think it was along the lines of showing up, and it is interesting because Joel and I will always say we just have to keep showing up. We just show up until God doesn't want us to show up anymore, and you just keep stepping out, and you just keep being there, keep your hearts and eyes and arms open to what God might want to do through you.
Yeah, and I would love to know. So I'm going to ask you about your experience of it, and I think the fact that you're saying that, showing up, we've both founded things, and we know, and I like, tell me your experience too. It actually takes, God gives you the dream, and it's exciting. And if you just stop there, in imagination land, it's never going to go anywhere. That's what we mean by you have to get in the boat. You can miss the boat if you don't get in it. And actually, God's dreams don't mean that it doesn't take hard work and grit. Would you say, like, what has been your experience? So you've got this dream, this God dream about Recognize, which you didn't probably know was going to be called Recognize and all of that. You had this idea. Where did you go from there? Talk about the grit, the hard graft. Like, tell us.
Yeah, there's been, honestly, so much grit. I mean, I don't know how people can do some of these things without God, because it's freaking hard with God. Like, yeah, I mean, I'll definitely talk you through our story just to give give a bit more like picture practicalities to it. But gosh, there's been a lot of grit. So when I had the dream, obviously I said at the beginning, it took me like 2.5, 3 years to do anything about it. I started telling people about it. I didn't do anything about it, and I sat on it a while, and there's all sorts of reasons for that. But one of the big reasons was I was sat there thinking, I'm not a jewelry designer. I cannot draw. Like, that is a fun fact about me. My art teacher used to be like, you have a really interesting style. You're so harsh. So I can't draw, but I have like a very, very visual imagination. But it's so funny because at the time when I had that dream, again, this is what I mean about God imparting more vision. I had no idea the impact a pop-on would have on someone until I saw it at the first ever pop-up that we did, and a woman was like, I've got cancer, and she saw the cancer pop on, and then that was imparted, and we've seen, so I didn't have that. So at that point, I knew it had impact. I obviously saw the vision that I explained, but I thought I had to design a piece of jewelry, which I obviously did. And I was like, God, I'm not a jewelry designer. Like, and I freaked out, and it's the whole classic, like, I felt called to do something that I wasn't qualified for. And I basically just therefore decided, well, surely you don't mean me. Like, or, do you know, it wasn't even that. It was like, where am I going to find these people to help me do these things? Like, because I can't do these things. And that almost freaked me out a bit more. And anyway, I ended up actually at Focus Festival, and I had a woman pray over me. And she'd never met me before. And she was like, Anneka, you've had a dream like 3 years ago and you've let it die, and God wants you to dream again.
Wow.
And I was obviously like, okay, like, that's true. And the whole summer, I basically, every talk I went to, like, so coincidentally, it was about like God qualifying. God doesn't call the qualified, he qualifies the called.
Yeah.
And all of that word, to which by the end of the summer, honestly, you couldn't write it. Like, the final talk I went to, where we weren't even supposed to be going to church that day, was that. And I basically ended up at the front like, okay, God, I think I maybe need to step out in this now. And okay, I'm going to go for it. And then I began to do it. And do you know what? As I took a step every day, more got done. And I always say this to anyone who wants to start a business, just do one thing every day. And I started to, do you know what? It's almost like I started to put parts of the jigsaw puzzle together. And one of the best things you can do is just tell people your vision and just let the spirit do the work of imparting into them, like the resonation power of someone else being like, oh my God, like, so many people would be like, Anneka, I love this. Oh, I know this jewelry designer. Oh, like, let me connect you with this person. And before I knew it, so many people were just around me. The guy that designed my engagement ring came forward and was like, I really struggle with depression. I want to be a part of this. And so he gave a jewelry team. And obviously I was like, well, this is what it needs to be like. And then, just some like little things along the way, like get connected, get in the community systems, get in the entrepreneur groups, get in the, like, your church network, like whatever it is, because God doesn't leave you to do it alone. He puts like the people in your life right now are the people that God has put in your life for a reason. And they're probably the people that need to be there to help you with whatever that you need to, do. And so I guess, I don't know where I'm going with this, but all to say, it was about grit, wasn't it? The question.
Yeah, and just like, how do you start? So you've got a dream, and then but people who are listening and going, yeah, I've got a dream. I think I've got a dream. What do I do?
Yeah, I think there's a couple of really tangible things that you can do. I think tell someone that you've had a dream, because once you speak it out, it's got power. Like words have power, and so just to keep it on your own, I totally get why you do that. It's very vulnerable to share a dream. Maybe you think, well, if I say it out loud, then I actually have to do it, or I get kept accountable to it. Or if I say it out loud and it's not real, or what if it's not from God type questions, then I get it's hard. But I just think find someone that you really trust. That honestly, like, who cares? It was, like, way better that we just practice these faith muscles, right? And just say, hey, I think I've had this dream. Like, it might be from God, it might not be, or actually, I don't know, but it's got weight to it. Like, this is what it is. Pray about it with someone. So you can talk to someone, you can pray about it. And then, as I was saying before, I think you can, once you get more confident, start to, I think talking about it, praying about it, asking God for more.
Yeah.
Conviction. What's your level of conviction over it? Like, does it just not go away? Like, recognize it just didn't go away. It just didn't go away. And I was going to work every day and it would be there, to the point where I was like, God is speaking. Like, God will knock on your door, like, until he will. And that's why I think it is in times hard to miss God, because I do think God has plans for our lives. Yeah. And if in him, I don't think we're going to miss out on what he's made us to do, because the Ephesians says that we were designed the works that we were going to do before we do them.
Yeah.
So I think say it out loud, pray about it, and then as you get more confident, start to talk to other people and see how they might be able to help you bring that dream to life.
Did you ever have moments of doubt where you thought, when you started and the wheels were in motion, did you ever go, what am I doing? And I don't even know, is this going anywhere? Is this of God? Have I got this right?
I'm like, am I listening to myself? But like, oh my gosh, I still do. Like, all the time. Like, honestly, some days I'm like, did I hear this right, God? Like, is this really something? Like, honestly, I've had fears where I've been like, what if I just actually didn't have a dream? Like, I'm like, obviously I did, but
I know what you mean. I know exactly what you mean.
Yourself, but of course, because I think we're human and we doubt, and that's where, just I think what happens is we have a dream and we expect it to go then in a certain way, and we put our expectations onto a dream that is probably massively misaligned with God's timings and actual plans.
Yes.
Fine, but actually what happens in that period of wait is you can start to lose doubt, because you were expecting something to happen before it's actually meant to happen. And that happens to me all the time. Like, I'm going through a season of that right now. And of course you're like, oh, God, but I thought I heard you say this. And one of the biggest fears for me at the very beginning, honestly, hand on heart, and I had to really work through this, was like, God, what if I have got this wrong? Not because of like my own pride or like failing. I'm pretty sound on that stuff, but like, because I was like, what does this mean for my faith if it wasn't you? Because I don't know how to match that up, because I live my life pretty supernaturally, pretty prophetically. Like, I thought I had a dream. So if it doesn't work out, does that mean that you don't exist? Like, honestly, they were some of the questions that I was kind of like, circling about. And in that time, I really felt God just talked to me about, like, he just said to me, but what if it was just for one person? Like, what, and it's really funny because around that time, someone came and invested in our business who wasn't a Christian at the time, but it's been on such a journey. And she was like, I just see so much light in this business. And God was like, well, what if it was just for her?
Wow.
Would that be okay? Like, and I think it's just about, again, realigning to what God might want to be doing, and surrendering your expectations and your plans and your desires to God, continuing to walk in him and trust him and follow his kingdom, and he will give you the desires of your heart. So I think, yeah.
That is so good, Anneka. And I think it's so important to have these conversations, because I think we live in a world where it's like, you see everyone's highlights and everyone's successes and everyone's launches and new things. And actually what people don't see is the behind the scenes, especially as a Christian, the wrestle, the doubt, the fear, the moments of like, God, where are you? Did I hear you? Have I got this right? Where are you speaking to me? Would you help me? I can't see that you're helping me, but you say that you are. Like, and I think it's so important to talk about it. So thank you so much. So I would love to know, like, and kind of nicely following on from that thing about what if it was just from the one, I felt God challenge me about that too in certain things, like, because God deeply cares about people. He's first a father and he cares. And I think it's very easy to get to not have the mind of Christ. You know what I mean? And actually not see people the way he sees them, and see one as like, it's just one, like, and actually one bigger and better. But he always thinks differently to us. So kind of on that, as a businesswoman, as a Christian businesswoman, how do you balance ambition, like, and not in a yucky way, in a vision for the future, a drive to see your calling come to full fruition, with faith and surrender and like, I trust you, God, your will be done? How do you walk that tightrope?
These questions, because they genuinely are, so relevant. They're relevant to everyone, and anyone who says actually lying, because you just continue to grow when you step out and you follow these dreams. I think the same themes occur just in different situations. Over time. So surrender and ambition. I would probably term the word for me, in just the way that you talked about it, was, I love that, the vision and wanting to drive that forward. For me, it's like, probably another word would be like desires. Desires of my heart. One thing as well that's really interesting is, I talk to like my girlfriends a lot about, we're like, how do I know if the desires in my heart are the right desires in my heart? Like, how do I know if they're kingdom desires or they're my desires? And then like, you get so confused, and my husband's like, I just think the enemy is trying to just confuse you. Okay, so just chill out. Like, I don't think guys worry about it too much. And I'm like, but like, this desire I've got is like, I feel like, does it align with like this and anyway? All to say, with all of that, again, one word I just always hold on to is that you just have to seek first the kingdom of God. You just have to put him first. He'll give you the desires of your heart. And I've seen that over and over and over and over play out in my own life. And just like, even in little ways. Okay, here's a really fun example. The year we founded Recognize, like, we both left our jobs. So we had zero income coming in. We put all the money that we did have into the business. We lived on literally hardly anything that summer. And I remember like little things like I couldn't get my raspberries from the shop, and like we could get one bottle of wine a week, maybe max. Like, we really just didn't have a lot of money. And like, I do like the finer things in life. Obviously, I'm a Clarins girl. I'm now a beauty pie, which is like, I wish they'd existed at the time. But my favorite makeup brand is Bobbi Brown. And at the time, I couldn't afford my Bobbi Brown mascara. And in that season, I got connected with just the dreamiest gal ever, called Hannah. And she's like, she's now a freelance makeup artist, but she was like the like head of like artistry management for Bobbi Brown. And she was an ambassador for us, and such a like kind friend and mentor, and just amazing. And every time I'd meet her, she'd give me Bobbi Brown beauty products. So the first time I met her, she gave me a Bobbi Brown mascara, and then she gave me a Bobbi Brown like bronze glow. And do you know what? That sounds really simple, but that is how much God cares about you. Like, and that for me is him giving me the desires of my heart. And I know they're quite trivial, but like, if God, but they're so specific, and I almost like, they're so detailed. Like, and there's been so many other examples like that, from small to very big. Like, we're going through a bit of a house thing right now. Like, out of nowhere, it looks like we might be able to get a house, which has been a desire in Joel's heartbeat for quite a couple of years, and it's never ever been an option because of what we've chosen to do with the business, because we've always chosen to follow God first, follow what is, and therefore sacrifice things. And And so, and also as well, I know they're actually very earthly things, like a house, like makeup. Like I'm not just talking about those things. I'm talking about those dreams that like you can literally play in a videotape in your mind, and the type of person you want to be, and those like pearls that you hold close to your heart that you're like, God, and like also the dreams that God's shown you that you're like, oh Lord, I would love that like to happen, or you all know what they are for you. And so I think for me, it's just about continuing to make sure I'm like continuing to remain in Him, in me, and then continuing to be like, every time I freak out about those things not happening, it's like, okay, God, I just surrender these to you again. You know the desires of my heart. I'm going to just keep showing up, keep going for it, and just trust that, you're going to give me the desires of my heart.
Yeah, that's so good. On that, I feel like my train of thought just got. I know what I was going to say. Have you ever wrestled with the tension of wanting to see success? Because actually, if you're in business, it needs to be successful. So there's just the baseline of like, that's just how it works. If it's not successful, it's not going to work. But have you ever wrestled with that in your Christian faith of like, is it wrong for me to pray and want that, God?
Yeah, as in an example. What would an example be?
As in you're praying that God would bless and increase your business, and then part of you's like, should I be praying that? Should I be praying more spiritual things? Like, have you ever wrestled with thinking that is unholy?
Wow, yeah. I mean, I'll try and think of an example. But even when you were just speaking, I think almost like the word I had in my mind was, God doesn't care. He just loves that you're praying to Him. Like, I don't think He actually cares what the prayers are, because do you know what I mean? Like, but that's not to say that I haven't had those thoughts, because I think I have had checkpoints where I've thought, why do I want that to happen? Like, why? Is it because then I will look great? I will have the fame, like people think it's really cool. Is that why? And is that okay? Because also on the other side of that coin, I do think it's a two-sided coin, because we have flesh and spirit. Like the flesh side, of course, like we want things to be successful because just like we have egos like that. But the other spirit side is like, I think just trying to align to the fact that it's like, oh no, it is about the one. Oh no, but it is about your glory. But if recognized is successful in this way and it will have the impact that the dream was about. And so I do think it, just for anyone, I guess, who's in that, like, you can probably hear it from me, there is that like pull. I think it's okay to feel both. And I think, again, the more time is with God, the more probably the other side of the coin shines more.
Yeah, that's so wise. I think what you said is so wise about like, it's a tension to be managed, almost, not a problem to be solved, isn't it? Like,
I love that. Yeah.
Your flesh and spirit, we're on a journey of sanctification. We're never going to be like fully like, okay, we've arrived, we're perfect in the way we think. And I love like what you said of, you just have to sit with that almost, but just constantly lean to the spirit, submit to Him, abide in Him. I think that's so wise, Anneka. So kind of probably final question then, what are some signs what would you say are some good signs? So kind of one question, two kind of sides. What would you say are some signs that you are in the center of God's will for your life? Because the fact is, you're a business owner, I'm a business owner. It takes grit, and it doesn't always, just because it's a God dream or just because you're in God's will for your life, it doesn't mean you don't have setbacks, you don't fail, it's not hard, you're not discouraged. So in those moments, it's a tension of like a ball of all the things you feel. What are some signs that, you know what, you're in God's will for your life, even when all that crap happens? These are the signs that you're in His will. It's okay. And then another question would be, what would be some signs that maybe you're veering off?
Oh, okay, I'm writing these down now. I'm like, oh, I love it. Signs that you're in His will.
As in when you're, let's make it really personal to you.
Yeah.
You're going about your journey, build and recognize, and you have a setback or things don't go well, or you wake up and you feel a bit afraid or a bit discouraged. What keeps you remembering, no, it's going to be okay?
Yeah.
I'm in his will.
Yeah.
What practices do you put in place to ground you?
Yeah, I could answer all three of them. So I'm just like trying to work out where to go.
Sorry, I'm like, blah, blah, blah.
I love it. But I do think that I was going to say, like, I totally get the feeling of, things can still go wrong. Things are very challenging. Just because you're following God does not mean that it's going to be smooth sailing. And that's just like been a massive wake up call for me as well. Like, that's been part of my journey. And so how do you know when things aren't going right that, oh gosh, we did get this right? Again, I know I keep saying this and I know it's really basic, but like I do, and I'll bring some more ideas around this, but I do think, it's so important to be spending time with God. Like, that's where you're going to hear from him, and God won't leave. I don't think God leaves you in the dark.
Yeah.
I don't think he leaves you in the dark. Like, even if it's, and make sure you're around community. One of the things I've had to learn is like, I've just thrown so much into the business, I've isolated myself, and the enemy is looking for someone on their own to like take out. And when you're like isolated, you can't get those words of encouragement, and you can't get the person who says, oh, like, this is just so amazing, or this is like, let me give you this word, let me pray for you. Like, community is really important, which is a practical point. But I think signs that you're in his will. I often think Bobby Houston says the safest place you can be is in the center of God's will for your life. That quote.
I love Bobby. Yeah.
Oh, and glory, hallelujah. Amen. I love that, and it's so true. And actually, I was drawing something the other day, and it was like God's will, like center of his will, and like, actually, I think surrounding that is obedience on one end and favor on the other end. And I think that's where like favor meets. Like obedience and purpose, and I think favor meets in the middle, and that's where God's will is. And so I think if you're seeing outpouring of favor upon what you're doing, I think it's because you're co-laboring with Christ and saying yes and amen to this dream that you put in me, and we're going out there together, and that's where the anointing is.
Yeah. So
I think if you're seeing favor and signs and miracles and prayers answered, then 100% that's a sign. And also, if you're like, a practical thing for me, I come out of the smallest meetings that I do, like if I visit a John Lewis store to do a wholesale like partner training run through, I will come out like, I was made to do this. Like, and it's the whole like the works thing. And I hope everyone gets to experience that feeling. And trust me, it's not always like that. There are things that I have to do that frankly, I'm like, Lord, I didn't sign up for this. Okay. And be like in the flipping torrential rain at 11 o'clock at night for a pop-up like setup, and it's literally hurricane weather, and I'm outside and we can't get in, and the car is broken down, and there's a cash flow crisis. Like, I didn't sign up for that, but there are definitely moments I think God gives you in the day just to remind you that, hey, I made you for this. And so for me, it could be visiting a store, it could be talking to someone at pop-up, and I just think, oh no, my body was actually pre-designed to do this. Like, so I think that's a sign. And then signs you're not in his will, you're probably not spending time with them, because I mean that's hard. Like, I mean, I don't mean like, well, I mean like, when was the last time you spent time with him, kind of thing. If it's been like a couple of years, I would question, are you in the center of God's will for your life? Because how do you know? Like, I'm not talking about daily, weekly, of course, like this, but I can go like a week without kind of having, I hate the word quiet time, but I just don't have a better word for it. But you know what I mean? Like, I could go a week and honestly, I just feel so unraveled, and I'm just a bit like, and then God's just like, hey, like, you don't need to do it like this. When you start your day right, like, it goes right. So just, don't leave it that long. And I think when I do even leave it a couple of days, like I'm just not, and I know it's not all about the morning. God's with us everywhere we go. We call on him all the time. We're talking to him all the time. But yeah, are you fostering that like relationship so that you're talking to God? Because I always say, sorry, I'm like rambling.
No, you're not. It's so good. It's so good.
9 times out of 10, if you are in God, it's him speaking.
Yeah.
And so don't second guess yourself. You're like, oh, was that God or was it me? If you've been given the mind of Christ, you're having Christ's thoughts. So I think
that's a quote.
That is a quote. Okay, that's me done.
You said a few, and I was like trying to write it down, but then I was like, I can't write it down because I'm going to look like I'm not listening to you. But I'm like, it's so good. I got to write it down. Well, we're going to round off now, and I'm going to ask you some quick fire questions. But I just want to say before we do that you are amazing, and honestly, thank you so much for giving up your time. I know you've had a crazy week and a long day, and you've jumped on this call to inspire, encourage, and empower all of us. So thank you so much for your time, your wisdom, your encouragement. You're a delight, and I'm sure I can speak for anybody listening that you just carry this joy, that you just ooze and radiate joy. And yeah, it's amazing to speak with you. So thank you so much. Now, are you ready for some quick fire questions?
Come on.
What is in your pocket right now?
Oh, I've not got anything in my pocket, but I did have my Clarence thing next to me.
And I thought, what if she's not wearing pockets? Wearing pockets? Do you wear pockets?
No, I have pockets, but there's nothing. What did I say? I've got a jumpsuit on. It's actually really cute. It's like never fully dressed. Love.
Nice.
And it's, anyway, but there's nothing in there. Okay. My hands are in my pockets.
Now, I think I might know the answer to this one, but we'll see. What is one piece of makeup you would never want to give up?
Bobbi Brown, I don't even know what the name is, my mascara.
Yeah. And would you rather have a date night in or out?
Right now, out. Probably out, but to be honest, with running a business, I'm happy with an M&S curry and a G&T at home, snuggling, watching a movie. So it just depends like what the week looks like.
Yes, that sounds like the dream night. But again, thank you so much for talking to us. Thank you for your wisdom, your grace, your encouragement, your sharing your story. It's incredible. Where can people find you? Where can people find Recognised?
Yeah, where you can find me, well, I'm on Instagram, it's Anneka Wallington. I think that's all my handle. It's so easy. Anneka Wallington. My name's spelled ANNEKA Wallington. I'm sure that would be like tagged and captioned. Yeah. I'm Recognised at Recognised Store, which is our Instagram, and our website is www.recognisedstore.com. You can also shop online with John Lewis and we have a whole pop-up tour right now going around the country, so you can always go to our website and find out where we might be visiting a pop-up town near you. And then this Christmas as well, we're going to be in 10 store locations across the UK from the middle of November right up till Christmas Eve, so you can also go and find us there. Wow, it sounds like you are going to be busy. We are going to be praying for you and wish you all the best. But thank you so much, Anneka. You've been a joy and delight, and we are so grateful for your time. And for everybody listening or watching, wherever you are, we really hope that this has encouraged you, empowered you, and just sown something as you pursue your dreams God's way. So it's been a pleasure and an honour. And until next time, we will speak soon.